Hey Algebra 2, in this video we're going to be focusing on factoring when a equals 1. Factoring, you guys learned this back in Algebra 1, and this is a topic that students tend to struggle with. So we're going to just review factoring out greatest common factors real quick. Greatest common factors. So we want to review this because this is the first step always. So examples would be like 7ab minus 35a squared b. So for common factors, you want to look at each term. So what are both of these divisible by? So 7 and negative 35 are both divisible by 7. So we can put that on the outside. They both have an a, so we can divide out an a. They both have a b, so we can divide out a b. And then we have to write what we're left with. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. A divided by a is a. B divided by b is b. So we're just left with 1. And then negative 35 divided by 7 is negative 5. A squared divided by a is a. And b divided by b is 1. And so now we're done. And you can see I can't divide anything else out. So let's do another example. Let's do all letters. So they both have x's in common, but so this one has 2, this one has 1, so I can take an x out. This y has 4, right? 4 times 4, or sorry, y times y times y times y, and this one has 2, so I can take 2 y squared out. This is z cubed, this is z squared, so I can take a z squared out. And what am I left with? So x squared divided by x is x. Y to the 4th divided by y squared is y squared. Z cubed divided by z squared is just z. X divided by x is 1, y squared divided by y squared is 1, z squared divided by z squared is 1, so we're just left with a 1. Now a common mistake is to just get rid of this and say it's that answer, but because we started with 2 terms, you still have to have 2 terms inside your parentheses. And you can always check your work by redistributing. So now let's talk about quadratics. So the basic gist of it, the first thing you always want to do is factor out any common factors. The second thing you want to do is ask yourself what multiplies to a times c and adds to equal b. So let's do, I don't know, x squared minus 3x minus 10. So these don't have any common factors, right? These two do, but all three of them have to in order to factor something out. So now what multiplies to a times c? So you can do a little scrap work off on the side if you like. That helps you organize your thoughts. So a times c, a is 1, right? So 1 times negative 10. So what multiplies to negative 10 and adds to negative 3? So negative 5 and positive 2. Right, negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So what you can technically do, I'll do it in light pink as like an optional step, is essentially we're going to replace this negative 3x with a 5x, a minus 5x, and a positive 2x. And this is just us manipulating the problem, right? Because negative 5x plus 2x is 3x. So this line is equivalent to the last one. And then we can factor out the greatest common factor of this line. So x squared and minus 5x, they're both divisible by x. And we're left with x minus 5. And then keep your plus sign and factor this. So 2 and negative 10 are both divisible by 2. And 2x divided by 2 is x. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And then, what do these both have in common? You can factor that out. So they both have x minus 5 in common. And what are you left with? X plus 2. So technically you can go straight to here because you knew it was negative 5 and you knew it was positive 2. But you could also do it this way. This is kind of like the reasoning behind it. Okay. So, let's do another example. Let's do x squared plus 9x plus 18. So, what multiplies to a times c and equals b? Because I can't factor anything out. So, it multiplies to 18 and adds to 9. And that's going to be 6 and 3. So you could just jump to the answer and go, okay, so my factors are going to be x plus 6 and x plus 3. And I think I said this earlier, if you want to, you could check, right? And you can check by foiling. So x times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 3 is 18. If I add these together, and you'll see like this, right? This in-between stuff, that's how I started up here. So that's what I was saying, like, you technically can put those two factors here and then factor out the greatest common factors. Let's do another example. 2x squared minus 14x plus 20. So remember what I said? First step is factor any common factors. And if we look here, 2x squared minus 14x plus 20, these are all divisible by 2. So the first thing you're going to do is put the 2 on the outside and then divide. So 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. Negative 14x divided by 2 is negative 7x. And 20 divided by 2 is positive 10. So these two lines are equivalent because I could just multiply this back in. Now I need to factor my x squared minus 7x plus 10. So what multiplies to a times c and equals b? So what multiplies to 10 and adds to negative 7? Negative 5 and negative 2. So if you want to do the technical work in between, you would bring down your 2, and you write x squared and then negative 5x minus 2x, because that's how you get this negative 7. And then we factor out the greatest common factor. So x, right? We're left with x minus 5. And then here the greatest factor is negative 2, because we don't want a negative in the beginning. And they both have an x minus 5 in common. So we bring down the 2 again. We pull out the factor they have in common, which is x minus 5. And we are left with x minus 2. So that's our final answer. The next thing I just want to talk about is solving a quadratic. So to solve a quadratic, by factoring, you use the zero product property. This means you set each factor product, because they multiply, equal to 0. So let's do an example. So solve it quadratic. Solve x squared minus 13x equals negative 40. So the first thing you want to do is make it equal 0. So we want to move this 40 to the other side. Don't drop this, make sure it still equals 0. Then we're going to factor this like we normally would. So what multiplies to a times c? So what multiplies to 40 and adds to negative 13? I believe negative 8 and negative 5. So if you want to skip the work in between, you can when a is equal to 1, but we'll talk about that in our next video. So we have x minus 8 times x minus 5, and then bring down our equal 0. So now to solve, we use what I just taught you about, the zero product property, and that means you set each product, right? So product is multiplication, you set each factor equal to 0. So we do x minus 8 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0, and we solve for x. So we add 8, so here x equals 8, and we subtract 5, or sorry, add 5, so x equals 5. So those are the answers to this, and you could check your work by substituting 8 in, seeing if you get 40, and substituting 5 in, and making sure you get negative 40.